Junior prom, like a 5 out of 10. Like, it was okay. It was okay. And the thing about junior prom that sucked is it like haunted me the rest of my senior high school, because this guy not only said the things that he said to me, but then also like held the whole photos over my head for years. I'm sure he still like has those photos now that he is yet to give me. Hey babe, it's Abbi J, and today is my second installment of my prom series. And I'm just talking to you about what happened to me during my junior year of high school at junior prom. And I'm sharing these with the hope that maybe you can gain some entertainment, but also some insights into like how I wish I would have handled the situation at junior prom, because it just was messy and it just was kind of weird. And still to this day, I just am like, it just was kind of weird. So unlike my sophomore year of prom, this year, my junior year, I had been dating a guy kind of like on and off the whole year. And he was the first guy I fell for. He was my first kiss. Like, I was so smitten with this guy, but he kept going between like me and this other girl and just like yanking my heart along. And so we had gone through a season where like he way liked me, and then he decided he didn't like me. And then one day, like February, the month of love, he just decided that he was into me again and that I was the girl for him junior year. And so he started texting me more and flirting with me more and wanting to come hang out with me. And I remember we had an assignment in one of our classes that we had together to watch this really old historical movie and then write a paper on it. And he's like, "Do you want to watch that movie with me?" And I was like, yeah. Like, looking back, I'm like, girlfriend, run, red alert, red alert, red alert. This guy is a player. Like, get away from him. But I was so smitten. And so I said yes, and we watched that movie and kind of were like all cozy with each other. And then that movie ended and I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, I got to write a paper on this super sad movie. And he's like, we need a movie to cheer us up. So he puts in Napoleon Dynamite. Like, that other movie was like 2 hours long, and now he wants to hang out for another 2 hours. But I was just like, okay. So during the scene in Napoleon Dynamite when Deb and Napoleon are at prom, he turns to me and he's like, should we dance like that at prom? And I looked at him and I said, well, are you taking me to prom? And he's like, yeah, I'd really like to take you to prom. And my little baby heart was just like, oh my gosh, I'm getting asked to prom. And so he asked me to prom, like just during Napoleon Dynamite. And so I got really excited, and that was in February. And then by the time that actually prom rolled around, true to form, this guy was kind of getting more like wishy-washy. And I truly remember thinking to myself, like, as I'm getting ready for prom, like, I wonder what this prom date is going to be like. Like, I still really like this guy because that's just my personality. I'm super loyal and I was crushing so hard on him, but I didn't know where in the world he was on the scale of like liking me. And so that sucked, and that added to like a lot of anxiety. But the best part is that I found my prom dress at a garage sale for $25 like a couple weeks before. And so with that and his boutonniere, I think prom cost me like $35, $40. And so that was the way to go. So I had this really pretty blue dress and I was really excited. And I really liked this guy, so I was really excited to go to prom with a guy that I was actively dating. Can I put that in quotation marks? Like, that's how confusing our relationship was. And so we go to prom, and like we're in this really big group of like all of our really good friends. And so that was also kind of pressure because this guy, he acted different in front of me than he did in front of like his friends. And girlfriend, if that's you, if that's your date, like that's just a major red flag, right? We should be the same person no matter who we're with. And so great time. He took me to an awesome dinner, which was so nice. And then we go to prom and it's like fine. Like, I mean, we're just hanging out and stuff, but like, he's not giving me any vibes of like, I like you, and not any vibes of like, we're just friends. Like, kind of that really awkward in between. And I keep kind of like waiting for him to like maybe take my hand or take a moment where we can like go outside and be alone. But like, no, doesn't really happen. And so it's getting closer to the end of the night, and he's bought the photo package, which is super generous and very expensive. And so I was like, well, let's make sure we get our photos before the photographer leaves. And we go over to this photographer, and he like looks at us, and I don't know, maybe he could see like the goo like hearts in my eyes. And he's like, oh, you guys are the cutest couple. Come over here. And he's like kind of posing us. And I'm just kind of standing there, and my date is just being so awkward. And finally this photographer, he looks at us and he goes, now tell me, are you guys dating or are you just friends? And this guy, my date, looks at me and he goes, and so I look to the photographer and I say, we're dating, which is the most sad statement I've like ever had to force out of my mouth, because I don't want to date somebody that's like hesitant to admit that he's dating me. And that's how I felt. So this photographer, probably like we were his like most awkward couple of the night. So he poses us kind of in more of this like couple pose where I think his like arms were around me, like behind me. And we take these pictures and stuff. And then like, I don't remember my date like ever talking about that ever again. Like, we just went back to our friend group. We like pretended the photos didn't happen. We pretended it didn't come up that like a total stranger asked us if we were dating, and he was like saying no, and I was like saying yes. And so it just sucked. Like the rest of the night just kind of like sucked. And like, I say that and I still had fun and we still danced, and like I was still really grateful to be there with him. But like that weighs on you. I just like, I don't know what we are. And so then we did something after the dance. But then like we go and he goes to drop me off home. Now, keep in mind, I've totally kissed this guy before. We've like kissed like fairly recently coming up to the dance before he started to get all like weird like he would. Like we've been a thing, right? And at this point, I think he was maybe holding my hand as he walked me up to the door. And so I'm like, you know what? I had a really great time. Like, thank you so much for taking me to prom. And he's like, yeah, I had a great time too. And just gives me a hug and walks away. And I remember for a split second just kind of pausing and like saying, oh, and then like turning and walking inside. And it was the weirdest doorstep like goodbye that I've ever had. And I was dating this guy. And so I just like, it was like such an awful like buzzkill at the end of this night that was already kind of weird, that he just was like, okay, good night, you know, gave me a hug and left. And so I walked in and it was really late. And so my dad was just there to make sure that I was in by curfew. And then I went to bed. And then the next day, this is what like I think is so funny. My mom asked me about prom, and I was just telling her, I was like, yeah, we had a great time and we went to this place to eat and like we had a great time. And my mom, she's never done this before. She's never done this since. She asked me, she's like, well, did he kiss you goodnight? I was like, were you like looking? Did you like, my mom never asks me this. And so I said, yeah, no, mom, he didn't like kiss me the whole night. Like he didn't even kiss me goodnight. And my mom got so mad. And oh, I love mom. I love Sharon. I just like love that ticked her off. Like, we were eating Sunday breakfast and she was like, "You're joking. Like, he did not kiss you goodnight." And I was like, "No, he didn't. Like, he didn't kiss me once." She was so mad. And I just remember, like, that kind of validating my feelings of like, okay, yeah, that was really weird that he didn't kiss me goodnight. And I was just so glad that my mom was like, "How dare he not kiss you goodnight?" The other thing that I just remembered now is I felt like when I went to prom my sophomore year, my date was just like super kind and like was like, "Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful." I don't remember this guy once telling me like that I looked really nice. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm not saying that to like put him down. I like genuinely don't remember feeling that hot or that beautiful just because he was being so weird and he wasn't acting into me at all. And so that like sucked. Okay, so that's my junior year prom. But do you want to know like the icing on the cake that like gets me is that weeks pass and this guy, like I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, do you have our prom photos? Like, I'd really love to see our prom photos." And he refused to give them to me. And to this day, I do not have my junior prom pictures because this young man didn't give them to me. And like years later, like I think we were graduated from high school. Maybe we were seniors. I was like flat out like, "Can I have my freaking prom pictures? Like, I'm starting to feel like I must look crazy weird in them. Can I just have them for my posterity to look at my junior prom pictures?" And he was like, "Well, I look really bad in them, so I don't want to give them to you." And like, I hate photos. I am like one of the most unphotogenic people. Like, follow me on Instagram to like learn that. But it just like so ticked me off that he wouldn't give me these photos. And he kind of held it over my head. Like, I remember one birthday, and we're definitely seniors at this point, and he's dating somebody else and I'm dating somebody else, and we're kind of quasi friends. And he's like, "Hey, I wanted to see you on your birthday, but you weren't home." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I had plans." And he's like, "Oh, too bad. I was going to bring you your junior prom photos." And I was just like, how dare you? How dare you hold these prom photos over my head? And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I don't want them because there's going to be like a hole in my life scrapbook that says like, "Where are my junior prom photos?" Because I never got them. So that was my junior prom. And while at the time I was like, "Oh yeah, that was fine. I was really glad to go with this young man." And like, it's fine now. Looking back, I'm just like, that was so ridiculous. And here's the thing. Compared to senior prom, I take junior prom like a million times over because I'm going to share with you what happened at my senior prom in my next video. So can't wait to see you in that video, babe. Abbi J out.